Good evening, dear Medyascope viewers. Welcome to This Week in Turkey. This evening, our guest will be political scientist Burak Bilgehan Özpek. We will be talking about the new political parties of former Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoğlu and former Minister of Economy Ali Babacan. But first, let's take a look at this week's developments. As of May 28, the death toll from the coronavirus in Turkey has reached 4,461. The number of confirmed cases has become 160,979, according to the data shared by the Health Minister Fahrettin Koca. As of June 1st, restaurants, cafes, museums, beaches, parks, and sports facilities will reopen and restrictions on intercity travel will be lifted. Furthermore, a weekend curfew will be imposed for the last time in 15 provinces, including Istanbul, Ankara, and Izmir, starting at midnight tonight. Here are the developments of the week.
4 provinces in Turkey reported diagnosing new COVID-19 cases on May 27th after weeks of no residents testing positive. These new diagnoses come a little over 2 weeks after the reopening process began on May 11. The Mediterranean province of Antalya reported the number of infected persons rising to 31 on May 27. The northeastern province of Artvin and eastern provinces of Bingöl and Elazığ also reported new cases of COVID-19. Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality has started to set up social distance circles in the city's parks as part of the measures against coronavirus ahead of the summer. The circles have a radius of 2.4 meters and are 1.8 meters away from one another, the municipality stated. In the south, preparations have also begun for the summer. Municipal workers have set up places for sunbeds to maintain social distance between people in Antalya's Konyaaltı beach. Also, warning signs about social distance were hung around the beach. Intercity travel has started again after a 2-month gap. While domestic flights are expected to begin around June 4, trains have begun on May 28. Trains will make 16 trips daily, although individuals aged 20 or less and 65 or older cannot travel. Trains would run at half capacity with no ticket price hikes, Transport Minister Adil Kara İsmailoğlu said, adding that passengers would be monitored for virus symptoms. Religious Affairs Directorate announced preventative measures for mosques and mass prayers houses of worship that were reopened today. The directorate said that people visiting and attending mosques will no longer be allowed to perform ablutions at public facilities, but will have to do it at home instead. Further, visitors in mosques will be required to wear masks, bring their own prayer rugs, and keep a safe distance from other worshippers. Mosques will be left open for any worshippers who choose to pray alone during Mass Friday prayers, as well as during the Mass prayers at noon and mid-afternoon every day. The directorate urged the governor offices nationwide to turn schoolyards, soccer fields, street market lots, squares, and meadows available to congregations if the mosque's court wasn't large enough.
This evening, our guest is political scientist Burak Bilgehan Özpek. Good evening, Mr. Özpek. Thank you for being with us this evening.
Good evening.
So 2 developments this month have once again reignited the discussions regarding the potential of the new parties in Turkey. One was the 30-minute documentary on Ali Babacan, and the other one was Ahmet Davutoğlu's interview on Akit TV. What did these 2 instances reveal about the said leaders and their general outlook, as well as their reactions in the face of adversaries?
Actually, there is a strict control of government over media, so alternative media channels might be an opportunity for the new leaders. That's why Ali Babacan used 140 Journos as a platform to express his own ideas and vision. And as far as I know, it became very popular in a week, and approximately 2 million people visited this documentary and watched it. So this implies that the traditional media does not allow the new leaders to express their ideas and their claims, and the new wave media might be an opportunity for them. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, Davutoğlu showed up in Akit TV, and it's very symbolic because Akit TV is an Islamist channel, and actually it was a radical one 10 years ago, but now it represents the center of the government's mentality. So it is mainstream actually, and Davutoğlu viewed this invitation as an opportunity to have a bridge with the conservative people, because the AK Party is a very interesting political entity. If you leave AK Party, you suddenly turn into a criminal, politician or a terrorist or a very, abnormal figure in the eyes of the AK Party voters. So if you want to be normal, if you want to be legitimate, you have to say something to conservative people, and both Akit TV and 140 Journals might be an opportunity for those leaders to contact with the conservative voters.
I know this was spoken about a lot, especially when there were first discussions about the parties, about why Babacan and Davutoğlu did not act together. So now that time has passed and the parties have been established, what can we say about their leaderships? What kind of similarities are there between them? What are the differences? Why didn't they act together? Why didn't they join forces?
Mm-hmm. Because they have different methodologies, they have different political targets, and they have different ideological tendencies, actually. First of all, Ali Babacan claims to represent center of Turkish political scale. So he is obviously a liberal guy, and he is obviously representing the principles of liberal democracy, actually. So he argues that Turkey suffers from identity politics and polarization. He doesn't want to be involved in this polarization. That's why he is using the language of technicality and rationality. So he approaches to the problems of Turkey in a scientific way, in a bureaucratic way, in a technocratic way, and this is Babacan's style. On the other hand, Davutoğlu is obviously a right-wing politician, and he is emphasizing his identity and his priorities, and he has a political front line against the secular and left-wing people of Turkey. But Babacan thinks that his party should attract both from secular circles, left-wing circles, Kurdish circles, conservative circles, because no matter where do you belong to, you are suffering from the problems of Turkey, and there is only one technical solution of them. And Babacan wants to represent, center politics, centrist politics, while Davutoğlu aims to represent right-wing politics. But I should note that Davutoğlu wants to show to the people a right-wing politics is possible without turning into an authoritarian regime. So it is very important.
So in essence, we're actually talking about two very, very different politicians, even though they, come from a similar background in the sense that they were both founders of the Justice and Development Party.
Actually, let me say one more difference between Davutoğlu and Ali Babacan. Ali Babacan is representing a member of a traditional Muslim family. On the other hand, Davutoğlu is representing an academic who is involved in political Islamist ideology.
And at the moment, with the coronavirus pandemic, Turkey is going through a lot of, and will be going through a lot of economic difficulties. So do you think perhaps that the re-interest or the reignition of the interest in these figures, particularly Ali Babacan, will be, has something to do with him being perhaps a solution to these economic problems? Can Babacan use the current climate, the current situation to an advantage for himself and his platform?
Sure. This is a window of opportunity for Babacan, and by the help of economic difficulties, he can bypass the ongoing debate based on ideology, based on nationalism, based on security, based on identity politics. So economy is very important for the daily lives of people of Turkey, and there is an there is an obvious crisis. Actually, there will be an obvious crisis in Turkey in the following months, and Babacan is aware of that. He can use economy and he can use economic solutions in order to how to say downgrade the importance of nationalism, importance of security-based, discourse, and importance of identity politics. He could say that, look, we might have some differences, we might have some different ideologies, ethnic identities, class-based identities, but we have to solve our economic problems first. That's why you have to vote for me. This is an opportunity for Babacan.
And you mentioned earlier, Mr. Özpek, about Deva Party and future parties' kind of position in the political spectrum, where Deva Party is more of a central party, whereas Davutoğlu is more playing towards the right wing. So in terms of the political spectrum, maybe we can place them there, but how do you see them, their strategies in opposing the Justice and Development Party and Erdogan particularly? They never really name Erdogan openly when they're criticizing the government, for example. What do you make of this?
Actually, no need to talk about Erdogan, because Erdogan is a symbolic name, and there is no benefits of criticizing Erdogan in practical lives of politicians. But there are some, tenets. There are some pillars that supports Erdogan's power. For example, Devlet Bahçeli is one of them. By the help of nationalism, Erdogan could easily eliminate the alternative voices in the society. So if you criticize Devlet Bahçeli, you can weaken Erdogan in an indirect way. Or Erdogan is implementing his policies by the hand of Berat Albayrak. If you criticize Berat Albayrak, you can indirectly weaken or you can indirectly undermine Tayyip Erdogan's power. Tayyip Erdogan has a prestige in the eye of the conservative voters. If you criticize him, you can lose them. But if you criticize Devlet Bahçeli, if you criticize Berat Albayrak, you can attract the conservative voters. That's why both Babacan and Davutoğlu are not mentioning about Erdogan personally.
But as for Erdogan, I mean, again, when he saw the 140 journos' documentary on Babacan, he got quite angry, even though he didn't openly say Babacan's name and so forth. But he was angry. And Erdogan usually, when he has certain strategies and has certain repeated rhetoric when he opposes or rather attacks opposition leaders, what will be his strategy when it comes to Davutoğlu and Babacan?
I think his reaction was very normal, because he is feeling that Babacan and Davutoğlu are going to be popular in the eyes of especially conservative voters under economic difficulties. So he is trying to show his personality, and he is trying to, prevent conservative voters to be attracted by those leaders. And that's why he immediately reacted, and he wanted to protect his Minister of Economy and his partner, Devlet Bahçeli, and he claimed to be target of criticisms. That's why Erdogan reacted immediately. He wanted to create a dichotomy between him and others, not between Bahçeli and others, not between Berat Albayrak and others. He wants to create a dichotomy between Tayyip Erdogan and other opposition leaders. That's his strategy.
Yeah. And as you say, I guess the fact that he's worried of losing popularity to Davutoğlu and Babacan can be seen also in the talks that happened this week as well, relating to the transfer of deputies from party to party, so that they can, form parliamentary groups necessary for them to run in the elections. I mean, Kılıçdaroğlu said it was a possibility that such a thing could happen. So where do you think this will lead? Do you think this would actually, will Erdogan and Bahçeli really take measures to prevent this?
This is a possibility. In 2018, Bahçeli suddenly called for a snap election in order to prevent E-Party of Meral Akşener from participating into elections. and CHP helped E-Party to form a group in the parliament. That's how they could participate in the elections. Now the same scenario could happen because according to Turkish law, the newly founded political parties need 6 months after their general congress to participate into elections. If there will be a snap election, if it is going to be suddenly called by Bahçeli or Erdogan, both Babacan and Davutoğlu will not be able to participate. So I think Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu wants to prevent this because he wants right-wing voters to have as many options as possible in order to undermine the popularity of AK Party and MHP. So if Babacan takes place in the elections, if Davutoğlu takes place in the elections, the right-wing voters will have alternatives. So there will be a fragmentation in right-wing bloc. So this will help CHP to gain more weight actually in the parliament. Might be CHP's vote might remain constant, but its weight, its influence might increase if alternative parties takes place in the parliament.
So, I mean, if we are going to talk about Deva Party and Future Party in that sense, how new are they, let's say? I mean, in what ways do they differ from, the original Justice and Development Party? And how will they affect kind of this political spectrum then?
I think Babacan represents the AK Party between 2002 and 2010. And Davutoğlu represents the AK Party between 2010 and 2016. And they are against the AK Party after 2016. This is an intra-party struggle, actually. And that's why Babacan thinks that he did everything good between 2002 and 2010. Turkey was about to join the European Union. Turkey made economic reforms, and the reform packages were extremely popular in Turkish politics. And Turkey was about to become actually a democratic country as a member of the EU. That is the target. That's the political aim of Babacan. On the other hand, Davutoğlu thinks that his term between 2010 and 2016 was excellent because he thinks that Turkey was using, neo-Ottomanism in a foreign policy, and Turkey had a very disciplined bureaucratic culture in domestic politics, so it was very successful. Anyway, both Babacan and Davutoğlu had different AK Party visions in their minds, so they are fighting against AK Party after 2016. That's the story, I think.
Okay. And lastly, Mr. Özpek, I wanted to talk to you about this issue of self-criticism. Last night with Edgar Şar, you had a broadcast about it, but I think it's also important for our English-speaking audiences to maybe have insight on this issue. So, do you find their reasoning to part ways with Erdogan sufficient and satisfying? I mean, they rather criticize, the shifts and the changes in the AK Party, in the Justice and Development Party, but is that enough? Is it fulfilling the expectations that people have for them to kind of stand up for their own position within, their time at the side of Erdogan?
Actually, it's not enough, and people are waiting for these leaders to analyze the past in an objective way, actually. If the AK Party has turned into a family business, there should be an explanation of that. You cannot explain everything with the personality of Erdogan. Yes. You should have an analytical point based on structural, explanations. What kind of structural, deficiencies did AK Party have since 2002, and what is the difference of the newly founded parties from the original AK Party? So what are they gonna do if their parties turn into a family business in the future? What kind of barriers, what kind of assurances that they could provide to the public. So they don't have to feel themselves as culprits or criminals, answering the questions of the public prosecutor. So they should be relaxed, and they should make an analysis based on structural points, and they should explain why AK Party transformed, why AK Party turned into a personalistic rule. And I think both Babacan and Davutoğlu have capacity to make this analysis. Mm-hmm. And they should be honestly answer the questions coming from the public opinion. If they do that, they could send clear signals to the public opinion, and they could suggest some institutional guarantees within their parties, which could satisfy the fears of public opinion or potential voters of those parties.
Mm-hmm. Burak Bilgehan Özpek, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
You are welcome.
The Ministry of National Defense released a statement on May 27 announcing that Infantry Lieutenant Canberk Tatar had lost his life in an explosion that took place during a road control patrol in Syria's Idlib. The statement indicated that the origin of the explosion was 250 meters south of the search area. Canberk Tatar was taken to the hospital after being wounded in the explosion, but lost his life despite all efforts, the ministry said. May 27 marked the 25th anniversary since the Saturday mothers started gathering to demand justice for the disappearance of their loved ones under custody.
Saturday mothers gathered in Galatasaray Square in Taksim on the 25th anniversary of their struggle. Placing carnations at the square in memory of their losses, they said, 25 years ago today, on May 27, 1995, we took to Galatasaray and said, we want our lost ones. We have once again exclaimed that we will give up neither our losses nor Galatasaray, our meeting place with them. Since their 700th gathering on August 25, 2018, Saturday mothers have been prevented from holding their weekly sit-in protests in Galatasaray. They had been meeting in front of the Human Rights Association Istanbul office to read out their press statements. Due to novel coronavirus outbreak, they have been sharing their weekly statements with the public on social media. To mark the 25th anniversary of their struggle, Saturday mothers and people have been sharing messages under the hashtag, "We will not give up searching for our losses." The Saturday Mothers is a group who gathers every Saturday at noon for half an hour in Galatasaray Square to ask for clarification about their missing relatives. Mainly composed of mothers of victims, they combine silent sit-in with communal vigil as their method of protest against the forced disappearances and political murders in Turkey during the military coup era of 1980s and the period of 1992 to 1996, where state-forced disappearances and murders have been reported in the east of Turkey, with many more missing persons who remain unreported.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan inaugurated the Freedom and Democracy Island on May 27th.
The island, which is one of the Princess Islands in the Sea of Marmara to the southeast of Istanbul, is notorious for jails and trials from the 1960 military coup, namely those of former Prime Minister Adnan Menderes and ministers Fatin Rüştü Zorlu and Hasan Polatkan, which resulted in an execution order. The island was renamed Democracy and Freedoms Island in 2013 as part of a rebranding effort to attract more cultural and historical tourism. Parliament Speaker Mustafa Şentop, Nationalist Movement Party Chairman Devlet Bahçeli, Vice President Fuat Oktay, Constitutional Court President Zühtü Arslan, Presidential Spokesman İbrahim Kalın, other bureaucrats, politicians, commanders-in-chief of armed forces, representatives of non-governmental organizations, and bar associations also attended the inauguration ceremony. Speaking at the inauguration ceremony, President Erdogan said, 60 years ago, Turkey experienced one of the darkest days in its history with May 27 coup. Not only late Prime Minister Adnan Menderes, his aides were tried in Yassıada, but also Turkish history, culture, values, and beliefs. Parliament Speaker Şentop said the new face of Yassıada is not an ordinary reconstruction or landscape work, but it is a historical confrontation and a new beginning. On the basis of every building that we see on this island, there are our nation's will for freedom, resistance to coups, and the determination to defend the constitutional order, Şentop added.
That's all from This Week in Turkey. See you next Friday at 8 p.m. Good night.